I need to check. All right, we got time. You ready?
I like that shirt, Lynn.
There it goes,
All right, you ready?
almost.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call this meeting to order, and declare that we do have a quorum. I'd like to welcome all of our guests to this meeting tonight. We have a lot of business to take care of, so we're going to move along here just as quickly as we can. Item 4 on our agenda is discussion of possible action on consent agenda. I hope that all of you have looked at the item C on that and are okay with it. So if everybody's okay, I'd like to have a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Was there a change to it? What was the changes on it?
We removed the firearm thing and then
Okay.
just added cleaned up a few things.
Okay.
It wasn't anything earth-shattering, though, just small stuff.
Well, I mean, usually it's highlighted or
Hmm.
kind of tell me what was off. I couldn't figure out what came off those, so. Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
No, he's not.
Okay, we're going to move to item number 6, presentation of Oklahoma Municipal League's 25-year service award. We would like to recognize Lee Risley, but I'm not sure he's here, so we'll go ahead and recognize Jared Benson right quick. So, Robin, if you'd like to do that. Jerry, you want to come forward?
So for any of you who don't know Jared, he is our water treatment plant supervisor. Been here almost 25 years, he's got to stay a few more days for sure to get this award. 12/15 of 1999, is that correct? And then Lee, who is not here to be recognized tonight, has been here since October 12th of 99. So on behalf of OML, they recognize employees who've had a tenure of 25 years across the state of Oklahoma. And so we're doing this recognition on behalf of OML tonight. We want to thank you for your years and hope you have many more to stay here with us. Man, that is close. I hope the resolution on that's not so good.
Are we ready?
I think so.
All right, item 7, we're going to receive a presentation of fiscal year 2024 audit from Jana Walker, CPA and PLLC. Jana? You have a hot mic there, so.
I have a, great. Well, I think you should have your bound reports in front of you, and we'll just jump right in and move along through this. So yes, this is June 30, 2024, the financial statement audit. If you turn to the first page with my letterhead on it, right after the table of contents, we will jump right in. So we audited the financial statements of the city of Salisaw for this year, and we're happy to give you an unmodified opinion. So that means that in all material aspects, we believe the numbers here presented tonight are not materially misstated, so that's the opinion that you want to receive. So that is the government activities, business type activities, and all your funds here. The next couple paragraphs just outline your responsibility as management for this for these financial statements, and then my responsibility as the auditor. On page 2, there's a couple more paragraphs talking about the required supplementary information that'll be included with this report, and some other supplementary information with the single audit that we'll get to at the end of the report, and another report with the government auditing standards that we're required to communicate to you that will move in as well. But page 4, this starts the management discussion and analysis, which really snapshots and highlights what happened during the year. So I like to start there and just point out some of those highlights. Those first bullet points right in the middle of the page It boils down to your net position at the end of the year was approximately 34 million. So compared to last year, 29 million. So that was an increase. That's a good question to ask every year. Hey, where were we compared to last year compared to this year? Did we make improvements or not? And so that positive increase in that net position is always great to see in any city whenever we see that go up and continue to have a positive increase in your net position, your bottom line. The city has about 4.1 million in unrestricted net position. We like to see that a healthy amount as well. So that just means things that aren't tied up and restricted that you can continue to provide and service your obligations to the citizens and creditors. And so your governmental total net position increased by almost 1 million, with the business type activity consisting of about 4 of that total increase that we talked about just a little bit ago. So once again, bottom line, seeing those increase year after year, that's what we like to see as you continue to move forward. The next couple paragraphs really just outline and give you a good overview of what are these financial statements. As you can see, your packet's pretty thick. There's a lot here. Government auditing standards or presentation standards presents a lot of the same information about 5 different ways. So all users and who wants to look at them can usually pull out what they need. Those are some definitions that I won't necessarily read to you, but are just good resource or reference to go back to and figure out how these are all tying together. The next page I'd like to jump to is page 6. There's a nice table right in the middle of the page. And this is a good representation that has it broken down between your governmental business type activities between this year and last year, where you can see some of those totals in a condensed format where we got those financial highlights right at the very beginning, broken down in between not only your totals, but governmental and business type activities. So those total asset lines right there, you can see that increase, and then your total liabilities going down from one year to the next, and that's where you really get down to your net position and making that increase at the end of the year. The very next page, page 7, that tells you how you got from point A to point Z during the year, all of your revenues and expenditures and where that increase, decrease actually happened. And so overall, your total revenues, they were pretty consistent, but your to have that increase at the bottom line, your total expenses actually decreased, and that's pretty hard to say for a lot of cities, especially with the cost of input, cost of infrastructure, and everything rising. So that's always great to see how you can not necessarily little by little control some of your revenues being a city and what you're providing, but to always budget and control some of those expenditures. So I haven't seen too many cities that's continued to actually have a decrease in expenditures just because the nature of cost rising and not having control over that. So all in all, that's how you had that positive increase in your net position. Page 8, this really just provides a snapshot of and a good description of kind of what those revenue sources are made up of. Everything consistent here with what we normally see. A lot of times what grants that you get from one year to the next can kind of make what constitutes that total revenues, but still the majority of it coming from your local sales tax. And then the uses of fund as well, pretty consistent with what we see as far as how those are divvied up between your different categories. On page 9, it focuses on your business type activities. So here we just always want to see, hey, that your revenues are covering your expenses whenever you're providing those services. General reminder that I always kind of tell my cities, it's easier to incrementally usually increase your rates or something like that in your services than putting them off and doing it all at once in a big year, just because infrastructure is going to be a continual thing you're going to have to maintain, invest back into. And that's a big thing for the city. So just always pay attention to your rates where you're at and make sure that we're self-covering those as you provide them to the citizens. Page 10 breaks down those capital assets being the biggest part in the associated long-term debt into the different categories that you can see there, net of your accumulated depreciation. So year in and year out, that's always a big number that's depreciating off and what you're investing back into each year. And so, along with your long-term liabilities that you held. And so I didn't have any concerns about you being over-leveraged or anything like that, you wouldn't be able to continue to meet your obligations for financing those items. That kind of wraps up the high point of your management discussion and analysis. Once you get to page 12, that starts your actual financial statements. And so all of these numbers and highlights tie right back to what we just talked about, but here you can see the uncondensed version between your governmental and business type activities, starting first with your government-wide and starting with your cash equivalents, investments, working itself down to those non-current items. So overall, cash not restricted, about $7 million at 6/30/2024, and then the restricted portion about 15. Investments 1.9 on your restricted, and then your investments unrestricted 1.4. So still healthy amounts that are sitting there, being able to service your debt and other obligations that you have. And then down at the very bottom, that's that net pension that we talked about, ending at $34.6 million for the year. Page 13, that's your statement of activities, so shows where the changes in and out happened. Sales tax revenue 6.8, so that's always a highlight whenever you're looking how much sales tax revenues that you have in your general revenue fund. Operating grants, those type of things, always positive extra, but we'll get to the single audit and some of those individual grants at the end of the report. And then right in the middle, you can see those business type activities, some of those raw numbers. We saw that bar chart there earlier, but these are your raw numbers as far as where you ended up in the far right-hand column, dollars wise. So total business type activities in that, the positive was 5.3 at the end of the year. On page 14, once again, breaks down the information even further. All of these tie right back to those first two statements, but you can see your general fund specifically, and then I can point out where all those other governmental funds are presented on your combining schedules if you had specifics that you wanted to look at there or pull out specific numbers by fund. These would be the financial statements that you would go to there. So total liabilities, or the total fund balance for all of your governmental funds, was the 8.3. So this just takes a short-term focus. We have some reconciling items. That's the long-term focus that was presented on that very first set of financial statements. So about 10 million in your capital assets. Then we sort out some of those long-term obligations that tie back to that very beginning. On page 15, that's the changes once again. It tells you what you did during the current year with some of those. Sales tax revenue 2.9 in the general and other governmental funds that you had. Works on down to your expenditures, what you invested in capital outlay, 1.5 during the fiscal year, to get down to that total net change in your fund balance, about 84,000. The very next page reconciles a few more of those things that are long-term focus presented on the government-wide, but here in the fund financials, it's all current right there to get down to that 1 million. That was your actual total change in your net governmental activities. Page 17 starts the proprietary funds. So Salisal Municipal Authority and the Economic Authority, but pretty much most everything is wrapped up in that municipal authority that ties right back exactly to those first two statements that we talked about. So everything other than cash is your municipal authority that went through there. But once again, presents information just a little different way so that you can pull out any individual numbers that you might want to look at there. Page 18, that's your revenues and expenses, starting with your electric, some of those charges for services that you can see, and works on down to your non-operating, your sales tax, that 3.8. And then you get down to the very, very bottom where you can see that net position of the 19 million. The only other financial statement you haven't seen, those on page 19, Enterprise Funds presents a statement of cash flows. One thing we always look for here, just as a health measure, is making sure that our cash provided by those operating activities is a positive one. So you had a positive cash flow of 8.5 million. Not only that is a positive number, but that you have enough to cover any debt that you have or investment in those fixed assets, those type of natures, which you can see another column down. The debt and the purchase of new assets, net cash outflow of about 5.3. So you're self-covering there. That's what we just want to make sure, that those are generating enough to continue with the upkeep and the investment that you have to have for your infrastructure in the city. But down at the very bottom, total cash at the end of the year was about 7 million in the unrestricted, 9.2 for a total of 16.3 in the SMA. The very next pages starts your notes to the financial statement. So this just supplements everything else that we already had. I'm not necessarily going to go down every individual note that you have here. It is pretty lengthy, but I'll point out some highlights. Nothing significant changed as far as the presentation from last year or big new accounting principles or anything like that that we had to disclose, so that didn't happen this year. But I will pull out some of the ones that usually provide just a little bit more information. If we continue to kind of flip through here on page 27, that provides a little bit more information with your receivables, capital assets, what categories those are in, your ins and outs, your additions, deletions. So sometimes that's helpful to see how those accounts change from one year to the next in those different categories. That's always a highlight on the notes. And if you continue on page 28, that goes into your business type activities and the depreciation expense, which depreciation expense, non-cash item, but is included as an expense in all of that. So not that it represents a cash outflow, but kind of represents that continual cost of infrastructure to keep up with it. And so those are some of those gross numbers that are sometimes helpful to see broken out a little bit better. Page 29 starts your long-term liabilities. This is always a good note to see as far as what your interest rates are right now, what your year-end balances are, and what your payment schedules are. So page 29, page 30, and page 31 provide that additional information. So most of your notes payable, really great interest rates. Like I said, I didn't see any liquidity problems that made me think that you wouldn't be able to service the debt that is on your financial statements right now. But page 31 rounds it out with a nice table that you can see those beginning balances, what increased, what decreased, and what's due and obligated in this next year. Page, and it continues with page 32 there on the top as well. At the bottom of page 33, that's where your landfill closure and post-closure liability report is. We did the agreed upon procedures, and that's just a stapled small report that was with your bound packets. And so you were in compliance on all of those. This is where that note disclosure is, that we bring in that liability. But all of those procedures that we went to, we didn't find any findings with the ratios or anything that's required with that obligation that you had. But that note disclosure kind of goes along with it and continues on page 34, the top, that total estimated cost, the 3.9. But with your financial statements where you were revenues, expenditures, debt service, that was all in compliance with how much you have on that estimated cost. And that's what will be in that agreed upon procedures report. Page 34, that is your pension disclosures. So highlights there what you're invested in or what you have in your employee pension systems. There's a lot of disclosures with the actuaries' assumptions that were used. We rely on those to bring in those deferred assets and the net pension liabilities, and those disclosures outline and tie right back to what was reported on your financial statements. And those are goes on from 38 to 39, breaks out each individual plan with that net pension liability and asset, and where those numbers all tied from. Page. The very next required supplementary information, we have page 46, and that is your budget, so we didn't have any budget findings there. I just always remind everyone, stay on top of that you get any revisions, get your budget approved on time, any revisions you need before the end of the year. We'll be in budgeting for fiscal year FY 25-26 before you know it, so that's hard to believe, but you will be there soon, so make sure any amendments or something like that gets approved before the year's end, and then your next budget, that it gets approved there, so that we stay in compliance. The next couple schedules are all related to that net pension liability that we now have to disclose, and then it goes right into your combining statements. So I'd mentioned earlier, page 50, if you wanted to see all those other governmental funds that you have broken down any further, those same fund financial statements and those totals that tie right back to those fund financial statements we first looked at, those are right there if you wanted to see an individual fund for those same fund financial statements. That goes, but we will go on to the next report with my letterhead, page 58. And that is the report on internal control over financial reporting. So once again, good report. We didn't have anything that we thought rose to a level of a significant deficiency or material weakness. My reminder is, just because we didn't have it this year doesn't mean you can let up on it the next year. It's a continual process that year in and year out, and you guys have ultimate oversight for those to make sure management's doing what they're supposed to do. So all in all, staff was great to work with. Anything that we asked for, we could get our hands on it pretty fast. So that makes this process a lot easier to go through. So, but once again, always a continual process, and especially as things change, to make sure we always have good segregation of duties, good oversight with all of your procedures. Page 60, the next letterhead, that's the report on compliance on your major federal funds. And so since you were over that $750,000 limit, we had to do additional procedures for the single audit. That is what that report is. Once again, no findings with your internal controls or question cost. We worked through those audits, and your major program there on page 62, you can see those individual financial federal awards that were awarded. You expended 1.4 during the year, so we didn't have anything that we ran across that we thought that's questionable. So that's what that report outlines on the very next pages. That wraps up page 63 and 64. So we made it through 64 pages really fast. But with that, I'll take any questions. I know you're gonna take this and review it a little bit before you actually approve it later. So if there's not anything tonight, I mean, I'll be happy to answer it. You know how to get a hold of me between now and that special meeting if we need to clarify anything as well, because I know that's a lot of information at one time.
Well, I appreciate everything that Jana has done. This is her first year working with the city of Sallisaw. She works very well hand in hand with Russ Meacham and Meredith and their team as well. And so that was one of our determinations in hiring Jana on. And so her staff has been extremely pleasant to work with. She's driving from Woodward, I believe.
Yes.
So if you have any questions for her, she's
The
fixing
complete
to
other
skirt
side
out.
of the stage.
What we were talking about, we have to accept this audit, so maybe if you guys can look at your calendar, we're planning maybe next Thursday evening to schedule a time to get together so that we can go ahead and get this accepted by the end of the year and get them sent out to everybody that.
And then Russ and his team usually, once you approve it, they'll upload it with the state auditor and inspector. That'll get that in before 12/31, so nobody's yelling at us.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have safe
Holler
travels.
at me if you have questions during the week. so.
Okay,
Safe
thanks.
travels. Okay. Excuse me. Discussion and possible action on mayor's appointment of Mr. Nick Grant to the position of municipal judge with an annual salary of $31,200 plus benefits. Any comments?
Nick is here tonight. If you guys would like to put a name with a face, this is Nick Grant.
Wave at everybody, Nick. There you go. We did look at several candidates. We had several candidates that were highly recommended, and we all felt very comfortable with Nick, and we consulted with Jordan and other folks too, so we feel very comfortable that Nick will do a good job for us. So if everybody's in agreement, I'd like to see a motion, please,
When's the start date?
immediately.
So the other guy, what was the other one?
Well,
When I say
Ron,
immediately, it's gonna be quick, yeah.
his firm and Ron are, yes, go ahead.
Nick.
Yes.
Everybody, I'm Nick Grant. Yes, so my understanding is, kind of in the interim, my law partner, Ron Lawson, who served as the assistant judge in past, he was appointed recently. He's available. At the same time, we are in the firm together. And so him and I have confirmed and conferred, and frankly, it's up to you guys. I can start tomorrow. So I'm happy to do whatever needs to be done. And then I'm also happy to answer any questions or anything you want to know about me, whether it's my background or history or how I like to do things, but I'm very open and easy to communicate with, so.
I think we got all the information we needed,
I think so.
so.
Thank you, Nick. Glad to have you aboard.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Motion, please.
I make a motion to accept Mr. Nick Grant in his position of municipal judge.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. All right, now we got 4 presentations coming up, and I would like to ask a big favor, if you could, try to keep your comments to about 5 minutes at the most, because we have a huge agenda tonight, so we want to hear what you have to say, but if you can, just try to keep everything at about 5 minutes. So number 9, we're going to start with Todd Martin concerning Northeastern Health System Sequoia and possible direction to staff. Todd, you want to come up?
You know he can't talk for 5 minutes.
No, I know he'll probably be 50, so. Yeah. Get to the point, Todd.
I'll
Yeah.
pass the plate afterwards,
Yeah.
okay? I do know Nick Grant. I've known him most of his life since he was a kid. He'll be a great one for us.
Good, thank you.
I'm representing the hospital. I've been on the board for 18 years, and we've found ourselves to be in a pretty tough position financially. We've been getting there very slowly, but we're there at this point in time. I want to give you just a quick way we got there, and not getting too much into the weeds, but the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, really hamstrung us. And the reason it did is because they lowered the payments for Medicare, and then they promised that the uninsured would be more insured. Well, that was only if the state accepted that federal funding, and our state did not. So that's the equivalent of you working for $21 an hour, and now you're working for $15 an hour. So that's happened 11 years, exactly 11 years we've suffered that. Also, Sooner Care with Medicaid have dropped theirs. Medicare Advantage, that's been the biggest thing that's happened to rural hospitals is the drop in reimbursement rate. So it's hard you can cut your expenses as much as you can, and we've done that, and we're gonna have to continue to do that, but, you know, at some point in time, you're gonna get into a bind. And that's kind of where we are, and like I said, we've gotten there in a slow way. But what we wanna do, right now, we receive a sales tax from the city to help with our operations. And we feel like the best thing that we could do with that sales tax right now is to use it to pay all of our vendors and debt that we have, okay? So we want the city to entertain buying a bond with our sales tax money so we can pay all the people we owe off and get a new fresh start. We feel like this is the best way to spend our money. you know, it's okay, we've got a lot of good vendors that kind of let us pay slow and so forth. But at some point, you know, receiving those phone calls is, you know, it's just not the right way to do business. And we've got this tool, and we think it's the best way to use what we want. It's quite big. We owe about $14 million. That's kind of what you need to know. A lot of that's payables. Most of it is to our management team that paid our bills when we couldn't. Started in 14, all the way up till 17. We got where we couldn't. We were struggling. No bank in town would have anything to do with us. So we hired a management team, and they seemed to kind of know a little bit about rural hospitals. Well, you know, it was pretty tough going, but they paid our payroll a lot of times when we couldn't pay it, and we didn't have to let anybody go. Our payroll's gotten smaller, but it's gotten smaller because we've not retained people once they retire or they leave, and that's the way, you know, I guess you call that through attrition, but that's what we've been able to do. But, you know, then COVID hit and put us in a really, really bad spot. Your revenue was up, but it wasn't up near as much as the expenses. We had a little bit of federal aid, then they cut it off, and then inflation kept going up. So you can see kind of how we got where we are, and it's like I said, it was a monthly bleed for a long time. So we have been working our way out of we've owed this for a long time. It's not like all of a sudden, you know, something happened last month, and we're treading water right now. But we have got to do something to get us in a better position where we can, you know, get out of the hole. So this is something that we're entertaining. We've worked out kind of a payment list of who gets paid, and of course the city's on that list too. The city's been good working with us. But this is something that we would like to for you guys to entertain. We think it's a good deal. We've got some things worked out. We've worked really hard on trying to get some of our payables down. You know, people are going to take less money. The management team that we owe the bulk of it to, which would be $8 million. They're going to take a $1 million loss or a haircut, however you want to call it, to see us be able to do something like this if we can do it. And then we have some payables worked out where there's no interest. I mean, we've got phenomenal terms on what we're trying to do. You know, we have some things that aren't really good. You know, they're not, you know, you've got interest involved and penalties and things like that. So we need to get those out of our hair. And this is a way for us to do it, get a clean slate. I said, someone asked me, said, well, how are you going to make sure you're not here again? I said, well, we've kind of stopped the bleeding, so to speak. You know, we've made lots of, you know, budgeting and changes and things that are working, but it takes a long time to get those things going and working. So as representing the board of the hospital authority, we're asking that the city entertain the thought of selling a bond for us based on our sales tax. It won't be any more than that. It'll just be and ours is about $80,000 a month. That's what we're budgeting off of. And that would be dedicated to pay this bond.
Todd, tell them a little bit about the benefit or advantage of doing this rather than continue to pay that note at the bank.
Well, first of all, the interest rate's not very good. Second, they can call the note at any time and put us in a real bind. This would, the way I understand it, is this would come off our books. Of course, you know, it's the city's the big help on that. It allows us to not reach any kind of penalties, not reach any kind of situations where if we weren't able to pay it, you know, it could put us in a real bind. Those payables they're callable. You could find yourself in court, you know, getting sued. And with this, it pretty much just wipes the slate clean. Now we say goodbye to $80,000 a month, but we think it's the best way to use the $80,000 a month to give us a fresh start. And you know, since we've kind of, you know, we're treading water now, we're not sinking, give us a chance to do what we need to do. And that's stay around for all the great things we have going on in the city with, you know, the VA center. You got to have the VA center. We're looking at, I can't say that it's going to happen, but I think it will. You know, so Jerry Syke, part of our hospital, which will be a big fundraiser for us to help us with the finances also. But that's something that the VA needs. It's something that our nursing homes need. you know, some really, some cool things that we've got going, but we've got to get them going. And this would take, we would not have anything besides the sales tax. We would not have any of our equipment, any of our accounts receivable, any of our building encumbered. So that's, to me, that's a pretty big deal right there, you know, other than we say goodbye to 80,000 a month. But that's a fixed item. We're not, you know, having to worry about what interest rates are gonna do. And that, you know, when they went up, that really hurt us. So, we'd like to say goodbye to that problem.
So how long, I don't know if Robin answered this question, how long has the sales tax been going for the hospital? You know how many years?
It's been years.
Long time?
Yeah, it's a long time.
So just, so the newspaper gets it, that sales
not a
tax
new
is
tax, yeah,
already in,
yeah.
it's already in place. And then two, there'll be no rate increase for anybody's taxes. This money's already set aside for the hospital.
That's correct. And it does not sunset.
Okay. Yeah, and it will never fall off, so.
Yeah, that's good.
I see the opportunity for additional revenue. You just mentioned a little of it without getting into too much detail. With the VA center, will probably increase our revenue, we think. And some other things that are happening that really can't be discussed publicly, but could be increasing some revenue also. So I think there's some opportunities there for some comfort and some cushion for the hospital to be able to get this big monkey off their back, where that they can take care of business every day. And I've thought about this for a long time, and I don't see the downside to it. No, there's no downside to our citizens, there's no downside to the city, there's no risk to the city that I can foresee. And so just my opinion, I just don't see any downside to this thing. And I'm gonna tell you something, that hospital has saved a lot of lives in this community, and we just don't wanna lose that hospital.
Well, if it makes everybody feel a little bit better, most every rural hospital's in the same situation. I don't know of anybody that's a designated standalone rural hospital like we are that doesn't owe at least $9 million in our area. So it's happening. It's happening to everybody. But we think we've got an avenue. So we want to be able to see if we can make it happen.
Well, and we're too close to some of the hospitals in Fort Smith to be able to get a lot of critical care money that we could be tapping into, and we can't get it because of the mileage that we're too close to some hospitals in Fort Smith. So there's a lot of border hospitals along the border here that are dealing with that same thing too.
Arkansas accepted the federal funding, and they've flourished because of it.
Do you guys want to think about it?
I already have.
What do you like to do?
Is there a motion on this, or just direction?
We need to do some direction.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be good, I mean, I'd like to see the numbers, kind of what we're gonna borrow compared to what the payment is, compared to what your 80,000 is. You know, I think we need to see that, but I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, like you said, it's probably 80,000 best spent that direction than just putting it in the hospital, you know. But on the backside of that, it's really gonna come down to y'all to manage that.
It is.
When you get that clean slate, not to be there in another 10
Right,
years,
right.
you know, so.
You said you did talk to the entity that owns that debt, and they're willing to mark that down by
Yes,
$1 million? They
About $1
want-
million. Mhm.
I think it puts the hospital in the position to be successful going forward. I really think it's, especially when there's no additional risk or cost for the citizens to incur. I don't see what the downside is.
Well, how about this? We talked about we're gonna need to meet next week anyway to approve the audit. Can we just table this issue until next week, maybe look at some more figures, and then we can put it on as an action item next week when we meet again?
Yeah, that's good.
Would that be all right?
Get some clarification on your numbers,
I'll get-
and then I'll get with our bond attorneys and stuff as well.
And that doesn't shove it
get
clear into
some-
the January meeting. It gets it done pretty quick.
I think 60 days to where we could get some funding and get people paid off once, something happens, which, that's, I think sooner rather than later. I mean, if we're gonna do something, so.
Jordan, do you
Thank
concur?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. So why don't we do that? Why don't we table this issue until, I don't have to have a motion on that. That's just a suggestion, that we table it until next week when we have that other meeting, and then we can put that on as an item too. Is that okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay, item 10, receive presentation from Darrell Legg, Cherokee Nation Tribal Council District 6, concerning possible donation of unused city property to Cherokee Nation for construction of homes and possible direction to the staff. Mr. Darrell.
How are y'all doing tonight?
Good, how are you, bud?
Well, it's good to see everybody. I appreciate everybody that is serving this town. Y'all, it's a thankless job. I've been here, Mendiola, you've been here for 3 centuries now, it seems like. But this issue was brought up by previous administrations. You were here at the time, but everybody else is new, and I'm just gonna try to revisit it with you. Cherokee Nation is about out of land for future home development. Something that was brought up was, how about if, by Salisaw, not by us, but the thought of donating lots that are just not sellable. Y'all are sitting on them, there's nothing going on, and we build a house on them. The benefit of that is, impact aid to the school. An example, Jay, Oklahoma donated their old football field, and we built a housing addition up there. Other towns, I think Locust Grove and possibly Pryor, are doing the same thing. But it's totally up to y'all. It's nothing that we're twisting your arm about. We're always gonna be good partners with one another. This is just another way that we could probably partnership again. It's just if y'all have available land, we have people in need of homes, and we are willing to do that.
Would the city be able to, at the next meeting, give us council members a complete list of those unused properties? And I do know we have quite a few lots, and how many of them, we have some in the floodplain that we can't use. But we do have some lots that somebody could build on. So could you guys put together a list for us to look at on how many properties we're talking about? And we could look at it again in the January meeting?
Yeah, and I will say also, you don't collect a tax from these homes. We do a different type of payment in lieu of a tax. It's not called a tax. But we do, there's a certain amount that we give, just like a tax, but it's not called a tax.
Is that okay with everybody? We look at a list in
Yeah,
January?
that's a good idea.
All right.
Thank you,
Hey,
Darrell.
y'all have a
Appreciate it
good
very much.
Christmas.
Thank you.
See you, buddy.
Okay, item 11, receive presentation from Ms. Jeannie Richardson. She would like to request that the city start the process of applying for a transportation alternative program grant for sidewalks and possible direction to staff. Jeannie?
I want to thank you very much. Let me make sure I've got this on. Number one, many of you have been to the Neighborhood Association and been present, and we want to thank you for your support. In fact, the mayor has been there twice or 3 times. And I want to thank Brad, who was my opponent running for Ward 4, asked to put me on tonight's docket. Also, when Brad and I ran against each other, $1 million question was asked, what would we do if we had $1 million to spend for Salisaw? Tonight, I'd like to present to you what I would do with $1 million and how I could make that grow to be $5,080,000. $5,800,000. We're talking about the transportation grant, alternatives grants. It's for non-motorized. My 3 points that I would like to happen tonight is that we be willing to invite Mr. Matt Van Auken, the TA program manager, to Salisaw to give input, to engage the community in the planning, and to apply for the TA grant and other grants that make bike sidewalk trails a reality. In our population, the TA grant funds 80%. of the eligible cost. So we would only have to come up with 20%. And the interesting thing about that 20%, it can be received from other grants. It does not have to come from out of pocket. It could be received from donations, and I'll talk about that as we go. Again, Sallisaw could get 1.2 million per project, and there is possibility of 2 projects per year. The cost of a bike walking trail is approximately $1 million per mile. We have recommendations as the Sallisaw Neighborhood Association to have a phase 1 and 2, and then a phase 3. The phase 1 and 2 would be a trail from the new swimming pool to the baseball complex. The phase 3 would extend the trail to connect the high school and the junior high to phase 1 and 2 trail. Bike companies could provide bikes for rent. Shelters can provide comfort and safety, and individuals or organizations could donate these shelters, and they could be a part of the 20% that we would need. Larger shelters can serve as meeting places, information hubs, and various other benefits. The state of Oklahoma, as you know, is building sidewalks. Maybe some of you don't know that they are going to put sidewalks on both sides of 59 from the main street all the way to Redwood and beyond. Our plan for phase 1 would be to take it from the swimming pool to Highway 59. Phase 2 is 2.8 miles, and it is to take the sidewalk bike trail to South Wheeler, going on Delaware all the way to Old Highway 64 to the sports complex. As you can see, this is Wheeler Road. What you can hardly see is that there's 2 runners there, and I'll magnify that out a little bit. On the next slide, you can't see them very good either, but you can see that there's 2 cars. Notice that these 2 runners have been running in the road on Wheeler, and the car has to come out of the traffic in order to avoid them. On the trail from Sallisaw High School to phase 2, there are many options, but the one that I found most viable was to go over the railroad track at Port Arthur because of the most safe place. On Iola Avenue, it's just hard to get through that railroad. Hardly 2 cars can get through. Notice that we've started on Sallisaw High School and directing it back towards Wheeler Road, and there are many ways to get there, and shorter distances probably can be found. On Iola Avenue, there is no safe place to walk. There are certain areas that have steep elevation and drops along the roadside, posing safety concerns for pedestrians and drivers alike. I know of an individual who has fallen in the ditch twice, had to call 911 to get him out. His name, he said he didn't mind if I mentioned his name. It's Ray Maxwell. What's interesting about this grant, that not only local governments can apply, but school districts, tribal governments, and nonprofit entities. That means that probably more than one group could apply for this grant at a time, and each one could get 2 projects. A total of 4 projects would get us through the full mileage. So for $1 million of money, we could get a total of $800,000 for sidewalks. This is the way that the scoring is done on this grant. And what's amazing is that the manager of this grant, by the name of Matt Van Auken, has spoken with me personally, and in fact, you have in front of you a copy of some information, email that that I have printed off. And on that email, he voluntarily and on the phone also mentioned that he'd be happy to come to Sallisaw and look at our projects, what we're thinking of for sidewalks, and help us go through this process of this TA grant. What are the benefits of this bike walking trail project? It promotes health and wellness, and that we certainly do need. Sallisaw is below state average in both diabetes, heart disease, and other areas for health. It enhances community connectivity, links to neighborhoods, schools, and parks. It supports local economy, attracts tourism, and increases local traffic, business traffic. It reduces carbon footprint and promotes sustainable transportation. Safety, reduce liability. Anytime you have better safety, you have reduced liability. Safe paths between the aquatic complex and the sports complex, downtown schools, and many homes in Sallisaw, connecting all these dots in a Y type of pathway through the town permits many citizens to access these amenities. It also improves city beautification, and the cost is 80% provided by the Alternative Grant Program. My recommendation again is that we invite Mr. Van Auken, the TA program manager to Sallisaw, to give us input, to engage the community in the planning, either by doing surveys like that are easy to do, and inviting input in town hall meetings. Apply for the TA program and other grants to make the bike sidewalk trails a reality. I've also listed, I think, no, maybe not here. I'm gonna back up here. This is his contact information. And I think in the email, there is a list of other grants that are available that we could also apply for, that would apply for that 20%. Questions?
Jeannie, this paper that you gave us with these 33 total,
Yes.
where are these people from?
We did on our website for the Neighborhood Association, we did a survey,
Okay.
and 22 responded to that survey, and then some door-to-door surveys. We did 11 of those, and so there was a total of 33 surveys. 32 of those said that they would like sidewalks. There was no negatives. One did not respond on the monkey, what do you call it, survey site. We don't know if he just missed it or what. But as you look through these, it's very interesting, the results. And I've given you the total results written down on here. All 33 would use this pathway. All 33 would, both on the, going on Wheeler, and 33 would use it on the high school to, I think the high school one is amazing, reaching back from the high school back to Wheeler, because you get on Ruth Avenue a little bit, and there's just virtually no place to walk that is safe. I was there on that road today taking pictures, and I had to wait for 10 cars to stop at the four-way stop before anyone allowed me to walk across the street. And it's a busy street. I didn't put near the pictures in here that I could have. This, I believe, is a serious issue for Sallisaw, is that we need to have some kind of walking trail. And I recognize that we have a lot of things that we need here in Sallisaw, and sidewalks probably is not on everyone's priority, but it looks like a lot of citizens consider it important and something that they want.
Well, Jean, thank you for all the work that you've done on this. It's very comprehensive, and you've done a great job. Does any of the council members have any comments or questions for Jean?
I have a quick comment. To reiterate what she was saying about a lot of projects needing done, and maybe the sidewalk doesn't make the top priority on some people's list, but I would like to point out that the phase one part is that Redwood area from 59 to the new aquatic center. That also is the area, just 2 months ago, we heard a presentation from a concerned citizen over there about the dangerous road conditions for just his family in the front yard. So if we increase foot traffic over there with children from the aquatic center when it opens up, I think maybe that puts a little more emphasis on the need for safe pedestrian travel, especially in that phase one area. And, you know, I think what is being proposed is just some action to take place to try to secure grant funding. I mean, I don't see where the harm in pursuing that is. I mean, the worst case scenario is we try and we fail, and we have to go to Plan B to get, secure funding or to make some kind of safe passage, so.
Can we, George, do you have anything on this?
So I think one important thing to note is that, I think, once again, great job on your presentation. I think you did a wonderful job. One important thing to note is that we are working on planning for some sidewalks now, that kind of go along with the project. And we have a resident expert here in the room. I don't put you on the spot, Lacey, but she's with the high obesity program.
Yes, I'm with Oklahoma State University. We're funding from the CDC. It's called the High Obesity Program. And we actually just were awarded a SS4A grant through the National Transportation Department. And Sallisaw was included in our grant proposal to do safety analysis within the city here.
So what we did is we partnered with Lacey and OSU and the High Obesity Program. She did a great job when the grant was awarded the grant. So the first leg of that, obviously, is kind of planning this out, because you guys know, I've talked enough in front of you that I'm all about growth. I'm all about improvements. And sometimes the best way to grow is to take care of what you've got. And so I think there's a lot of sidewalks within town that could be improved that even fall within the path that Mrs. Richardson's talking about. But if we took some time and efforts and give them some TLC and we might be surprised about what's there or how little it might take to get those walking paths viable again. So I think the study is extremely important. Part of that study and part of that program is to connect, like I think we talked at the chamber lunch, is to connect the pool to the downtown area. So we know that our pool's gonna have a lot of youth, a lot of activity, a lot of pedestrians. We want them to be able to cross Cherokee safely. And so that's why we partnered with the High Obesity Program and Lacey, is to make sure that we have a safe pedestrian walkway to those areas. With that being said, before I agree with everything Ms. Richardson said for the most part. I think before we build a sprawling,
2 miles of, or 3 miles of sidewalk, we should really look at what we've got, really examine about how we're maintaining that, how we operate, how we can improve those, and then start building out in phases, so, that's just the world according to me.
Well, Jeannie, I've kind of looked at some of the route that you talked
Thanks,
about,
George.
and it's fun. I'm kind of sharing Brad's concern. You had that going up Redwood. We could come right out of as an alternative, we could come right out of the new pool complex down Elm, and within 2 blocks, we're down here on this street, and we've got hard surface all the way to Wheeler. So that would not be an area that we would need to go. We're not married to that. We could come straight down Elm and just be a short distance to the downtown sidewalks and right over to Wheeler. And if you go down Wheeler, there's sidewalks over there. They just need, some of them just need to be opened up.
Right.
But then the current policies are that we have to get the landowners to agree to all that too, who owns the yard. And so there are just some things we'd have, some hoops we have to jump through when we do that.
I agree that there's a lot of looking at, and that my
So there's-
direction might not be the most viable. Is this on?
I just think that we can, don't be married to this route.
Oh,
Just- but,
I'm not,
there's-
and that was one thing
You
I
get all the
wanted to
heads
say.
together and you say, well, why can't we just come here, and just, hey, we got it, and so there's ways we can do it that wouldn't cost much money too.
Right.
So, I think it's a great project. I'm glad you're doing this. We just have to make sure it's just actually doable. That's the thing.
Actually, I actually looked at Elm first, but when I found out that the state was going over the railroad track, because the railroad is requiring that they put a arm down for pedestrians as well as for the cars.
Yeah.
So that was saving money to come down an existing sidewalk than to go down Elm. That was the only reason I switched my view.
That's
But-
not bad thinking too, so.
But I again, I'm just after sidewalks that gets us all connected.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
so
your
much.
time,
I
and
appreciate what
really
you're doing.
appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Anybody
you.
else have any comments for Jeannie? Okay, thank you, Jeannie, so much. All right, last but not least, received presentation from Deborah Gable. She'd like to request a shelter expansion at Southside Animal Care Facility be considered in the FY '26 budget and possible direction staff. Deborah Gable, how are you tonight?
Oh, pretty darn good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you guys for having me, I appreciate this. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak in such an important subject as this, the housing of dogs and cats in Sallisaw. We have a huge feral dog and cat problem and an overcrowded population of dogs, and if we don't take care of this now, it will be harder to do later. Sallisaw Animal Shelter currently houses 33 dogs in 13 kennels, and there is a small room for cats that will hold a few carriers. What these facilities need is a dog extension for the current dog shelter and a larger standalone shelter for cats. The budget comes out in March, just a few months away. We need to get the trap neuter return program back sooner now than later. That's where Sallisaw Animal Control sets trap and catches the dog or cat, then takes it to a participating veteran where they spay or neuter the animal, then clip the tip of the ear to show that they already were taken care of. After surgery, then they drop back off the area where they were picked up again. I want to thank you again for considering the dog extension and the dog shelter and a larger standalone shelter for the cats, and there will be more room for them all. Thanks again. Any
Thank you, Deb.
questions or
Questions?
any comments?
No, I think I talked to you on the phone the
Yes,
other day.
and I thank you guys for putting up with my conversations too, because I am a earful. Thanks again.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13, conduct public hearing to determine if the property located at 304 East Iola is a public nuisance. Case number 12-24-1C, which is a condemnation of dilapidated structure.
Good evening, and unfortunately, like the predecessors before you this evening, not to be Mr. Doom and Gloom, but this will not be as pleasant. And this structure, to give a quick background, 304 Iola, it has been without active utilities since April of this year, though due to non-payment. Those was were sent to collections in May. The legal owner, Evelyn Hull, passed away in 2017. I believe she has one of her sons is here. The other son occupied the structure until his incarceration in early November. The current documentation program used by the department goes back to 2020, goes back 4 years. And under that current program, this particular property had 17 documented code violations for accumulations of garbage, junk, debris, weeds, brush, tall grasses, and junk motor vehicles. 16 of these 17 violations were promoted to cases leading up to potential abatements, each time under the same occupant. My office almost weekly has received phone calls of concerns and complaints about not only the appearance, but of the smell coming from the property.
There you go.
There we go. On November, let's see, after his incarceration, I had an active violation, or an active case, and the exterior, the outside of the property was abated by the city. That was completed on December the 3rd this year at a cost of $5,176 and some change, at which time gratitude was immediately expressed by area residents, some of them as they simply drove by. On November the 19th, a property inspection was conducted by both myself and Chris Carter, at which time a dog was seen outside, and you will see that dog in the pictures. We were unable to capture the dog at that time, but later that afternoon, Animal Control retrieved 2 canines that they knew to be inside. On the 21st, I assisted Animal Welfare in entering the residence under the authority and direction of a district court order. 8 more dogs were retrieved. That left a total of 10 canines in the structure that had been there for an unknown amount of time with no utilities. It was at that point I began my interior inspection. Upon the front porch, if I can get to that picture real quick. From right there, you notice the odor of urine and just in general garbage and fecal matter. As we were getting the dogs, that yellow door in the picture would only open approximately a foot, if not more. I was using a shovel to try to chisel through to get the door open further, and I couldn't. The going inside, no, that's not due to a dirty lens. Those are cobwebs. Those are akin to, that made me think of a horror movie, to be honest. The smell of urine and fecal matter was almost overwhelming. As you can see in the kitchen, more cobwebs, garbage and items strewn about. What you don't see under all of that garbage was compacted and layered fecal matter that was anywhere from approximately half to a full inch deep. I apologize, I'm not really used to the remote here. Looking down the hallway, mold in the ceiling. That was how the dogs were getting out. What you see in the bottom of that hole, the light colored object, is a full 1 pound coffee can. back bedroom, mattress covered in urine stains, fecal matter littered everywhere. Ceiling was beginning to cave in from a leaking roof. I won't go into detail on that one. Back bedroom, also fecal matter, urine stains. Kitchen area. That room was an add-on. What is difficult to see was the floor was sloping in an upward manner with a vacuum cleaner sitting on top of a pile of unknown. I did not venture in at that point. In a report filed with the police department from 2013, the officer who was assisting child welfare documented an overwhelming scent of animal waste, carpet stained by animal waste, and several dried pieces of animal feces on the floor. 7 days later, that officer later returned with child welfare and documented in the kitchen roaches were crawling over every box of food and were all throughout the house along the floors and the walls. At that time, the children were removed from the home. When comparing the report to what I saw, I believe that the conditions have only deteriorated within the last 11 years since that report was filed. And that officer was in agreement. I've made no bones about that I have almost 30 years of law enforcement personally under my experience. During that time, I have also assisted child welfare. I have assisted in executions of search warrants, drug raids. I've been in many questionable places that I would like to block from my memory. This one is by far the worst residence that I have ever been in. And if it's this bad, just from the documentation within the 11 years, I could only imagine the previous 11. I would like to ask that this council declare this as a public nuisance, unfit for human occupancy, and directed staff to abate.
We need that in the form of motion.
Is that,
Did you have anything, Carl, that you wanted to mention? Please.
Yeah, like I said, last 22 years, I've known that it's been the eyesore of that street for this long, for 20 years now. It's been disgusting, and I don't, like my half-brother Earl, he lived there and everything, and so I haven't really, I've actually cleaned it up in the inside a couple times and stuff, and he just, he got frustrated or whatever, but, so I'll just let it be, but my plan to do with it is I just want to clear it all out completely and just have a grass, you know, clean and just get it. I don't know. It's disgusting. I mean, it's crazy. That's the worst place you've ever, seen. That's embarrassing, and I really don't know how this process works a whole lot, because I'm just gonna say that I'm gonna do all I can do to get it cleaned up completely, just level it off. And that's about it, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
the city's already went in and cleaned, right? They've already
We
picked
cleaned
up
the
everything,
outside.
right, everything outside.
Yes.
They came through, picked up, cleaned up.
On the outside, that was conducted by members of the Parks Department. I believe at one time there was a total of, at the most, at one point, there were 7 members of the Parks Department there. They worked on it roughly 4 days, 2 to 3 hours at a time. My first initial, when we went over, I asked one of the gentlemen to come over. We seized the opportunity. We have got to get this, at least this outside cleaned up. During my interior inspection, I opened windows just for ventilation.
Right.
Had I known it was that bad, I might have gone to the fire department for a respirator to begin with. But the gentleman from the Parks Department that I was with, the first thing he mentioned was, wow, you can smell the cats. I told him, I said, no, that's coming from inside, that's not outside. That was, and I do have a full breakdown, there was
Okay.
several trucks, a backhoe.
Right. I saw,
But
I
yeah,
saw them over
the
there
out- the
cleaning up.
outside is clean now,
Right.
but it's that inside is,
So you just want to just debate this, but then he'll still own it, and,
He'll
I mean,
still
how
own
will
the
that work for
property, yes.
him? If we abate it, how will that work for him to go in and clean it up?
Well, right now, he doesn't own it, his mom's,
Right.
it's still in his mom's name. They have not probated the property yet.
yeah, it's not been
So if
probated.
we do abate the property, we don't actually take possession of it. We do file a lien against the property and then give them the opportunity to pay for it if that's what they want to do.
Okay.
Um,
Now,
If I
Lynn passed
remember-
away, right?
If I remember correctly,
Evelyn, yes, 2017.
if I remember correctly, I think the back taxes is 3
It
years
is
now?
currently 3 years behind. And if left unpaid, will go up for tax sale June of 2026.
So for him to actually take possession, they would have to probate the property in order to take possession of it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess,
To add to that, the property is big enough to build on. It's,
Right.
I think it's about 7,000 square feet.
it's a
So
good
they
corner
could-
lot.
It
Yeah,
is.
It's a corner lot,
It
so
is.
they could build on it if, and if he decided he wanted to build on it later, he could build on it. So, I mean, the lot's big enough, utilities are available.
Okay.
We would just need a motion to condemn and abate.
Make a motion, we recommend that case number 12-24-1C be declared a public nuisance and direct staff to abate.
Second.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for your work on this, and thank you for being here this evening, too. Thank you. All right, item 14, discussion and possible action on Civic Plus Statement of Work Agreement in the amount of $19,712.34 to provide permitting and licensing software.
Good evening. This was actually an item that was started by our previous city manager before he left. I took it over after his exit and pulled Robin and Kim Jameson and Jessica from customer service into it. What we were trying to do here is we had, we're trying to consolidate basically a lot of items that we're doing. We already use Civic Plus for our website management, for our agenda management, and things of that nature. This will just be bringing everything into one package and under one umbrella with one group of people. That, from what I've found out, right now, we're currently working very well with Civic Plus. They've been a good company to work with, and all we're doing is pulling all this together to, in the future, have everything, like I said, under one umbrella that would give us one management team to work with one company. So, and if you wanted any other details on some of the items that we're talking about, just, I mean, we can go into that as well, because we're looking at a permitting software, we're looking at the code enforcement software, we're looking at our business licensing, and also they are in development of an item that we have a lot of trouble with, which is an animal welfare module that would be they're thinking sometime it would be released next year in 2025, which is, again, much closer than what we realize.
Now, am I correct, the way I understand it, is it actually costs less than what you're
Yes,
currently using?
what we're currently paying, if you approve this and we begin this procedure, the yearly cost will go down, I think it was it $4,000 or
We're paying
$5,000?
$26,322 to MyGov currently, annually. The initial on this startup is $19,712, and then the annual would be $24,500. So it would be a cost savings, so, if we do trade out.
Is it a lot of work to
companies. Right
merge
now, we
everything
are-
over?
Yes, I mean, but basically, we just provide them the information. They'll tell us what format we're to send them the information from out of the other softwares, and then they will do all the work on putting it in and getting it to an implemented package.
And Civic Plus isn't some run-of-the-mill provider. I mean, you can go from coast to coast and find a municipality using their software packages. They're very well versed and experienced in providing that service.
Our
They would be
contract with
considered
MyGov
premier.
expires February 29th, so we're just trying to coordinate, because to do one module, or even if we do them all coincidingly together, is a 12-week deployment to get it all up and running, and our contract expires with MyGov without renewing it for the annual on February 29th. So we've got some calls in and
Yes.
trying to see if we can coordinate this to where it would all flow without us being without or having to renew a whole annual subscription. So, but we wanted to go ahead and bring it before you and get a contract in place if we're able to coordinate all of that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the Civic Plus Statement of Work Agreement in the amount of $19,712.34 to provide permitting and licensing software.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 15, possible action to convene to executive session for discussion concerning the employment and proposed contract of the city manager in accordance with 25 Oklahoma statute at 307B1. Mr. Jordan, do you recommend we go into executive session?
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion.
Second?
Mendiola,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. place, you recommend we reconvene?
Yes, Mayor.
Can I have a motion to reconvene, please?
Make a motion.
Second.
Hamilton?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes. Or did you say?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
wrote the wrong name down, hearing things. Mendiola?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes. Item 17 is possible action and direction pursuant to executive session concerning employment of a city manager.
I make a motion to hire Brian Heverly as city manager of Southall.
Second?
Moody?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Mendiola?
No.
Martins?
Yes. Motion carries. 18, discussion of possible action on the proposed city manager contract.
I make a motion to accept the contract pursuant to what we discussed in
As
executive
discussed.
session.
Second?
Moody?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Mendiola?
No.
Martins?
Yes. Thank you very much. Number 19, receive update on current and future projects. Guys, we're gonna have to do this 4 more times with other meetings too.
Your swim and pool project is moving along very well. If you haven't been by, the buildings are going up nicely. The block is almost completed on the exterior of the concession building. Once they got that exterior block completed, they'll start working on the interior walls, getting all of that done. There's some minor framing that will go on the inside of that as well, in the concession room. As well, we finally got good testing from the soils for the swimming pool site. We got everything corrected there that we found in some of the weak spots. The crews have started today standing the forms for the pool walls and putting rebar mats in. So you'll see that progressing along pretty good. So pretty soon you'll see a pool starting to shape up.
Sweet.
We also have the Drake Lennington Water Project still going. That project is approximately 40% complete. You know, the rains that we got in the, during this project kind of slowed it down, and then we had a couple mislocates of the old water line in the system. It wasn't actually a mislocate. There's some areas that they can't locate, and they found it the old-fashioned way. They dug it up. So those were repaired, got everything back in order, but the contractor's moving along very well and doing a good job for us out there. The landfill also is getting the new liner put down in place, so we're hoping that that's finished up very, very soon. Scott Neal is staying on top of it. He goes out there almost every day just to make sure that they're making their fusion wells and things of that nature to the satisfaction of the specs. So Scott's doing a great job on that. Past that, if you have any questions of those projects, that's the only project we've really got kicking right now that I'm keeping track of. We do have the future project of the East Drake water line that is going out. It's out for bid, and we will be, and Kim, please correct me if I got the date on this wrong, Friday, January 3rd is when we're going to be doing that award at 10 a.m.
No, open. We're opening bids.
Opening
Yeah.
bids.
And then
Yes.
award at the January 13th
And then award
meeting.
January meeting.
Yes.
So. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Is our pool looking at next year? Are we on track?
Really, everything is ahead of schedule just a little bit. So, I mean, it's doing very well as long as we can still have
And
favorable.
knock on that wood after you say that.
After we have, as long as we keep having favorable weather, you know, everybody keeps working on, everybody's working hard. Any problems that they ran across, they tried to fix it really fast. I mean, they didn't want to waste time. They worked solutions out very quickly, so right now, they're a little ahead of schedule. So,
Okay,
we're really proud of what they're doing over there.
Good deal.
Good,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
How about the update on financial status?
This is gonna be real quick. Everything is status quo with the sales tax. As far as expenditures and revenue for general fund, we should be at 42% at the end of November. Revenues for general fund was 43, expenses are at 41%. And for SMA, everything is around 45% for revenues, and the overall expenses at 33. So everything's looking good with that.
Okay, would you like to give us an administrative report?
I will add just a few things to what Keith had. The South Cedar Electric Project is complete. So they were able to hook up the new storm sirens as we got those in. I believe I was out of town Friday at a meeting, but from my understanding, they tested them and everything worked. There was a little bit of communication problem on the one on Taylor, I believe, as far as relaying some communications, but it went off, and so they're working through that. I talked with Cattails Environment with Jody, and they're still working through the mitigation credits that's needed for the landfill expansion. The Country Club lift station, that is in the budget this year, we plan to advertise that and be ready to go out open bids for February 4th. The traffic signs I was asked about tonight for Redwood, the supplier has had some delays in some of the components that go into that, so we're staying on top of them. Brad did kind of make a request that maybe we just go ahead and put regular stop signs up until we can get some of these in, so staff will look at that when I get back. The soccer fields, PDG, the civil engineering is now complete, and he is hoping to be ready to advertise December 18th and open bids January 14th. And then the LED sign, they have ran into some programming issues. It's caused a delay, and I did not have time today to reach out to Dub to see where we stand with that, but we hope to have that back up and running before long. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any councilwoman have anything else? Any questions? Motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got 4 more meetings we have to go through, so we'll go ahead and get started on the municipal authority meeting, and we'll call that meeting to order with a quorum. Item 3, discussion and possible action on minutes of regular meeting of November 12th, 2024.
Make a motion?
Second.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 4, discussion and possible action on a 1-year solid waste disposal agreement with Yappy Iron and Metal Corporation of Arcoma.
So we currently had a contract with Yaffee. It was a 2-year contract. They're wanting to negotiate down to just a 1-year term. This is the company that we haul fluff for out of Fort Smith, Arkansas. So he was interested this time in redoing this to where there was a rate for them to haul to us and also a rate for us to haul it. So we're going back on the haul rate, which is the same as what we ended the contract, a total of $34.44. That includes the state fee of $1.25. And then if they haul, it will be $32.50 a ton to bring it to us, and that includes the state fee as well. Staff would recommend approval of this agreement.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 5, discussion and possible action on purchase order number 103726 in an amount not to exceed $50,000 issued to Calix for the purpose of purchase of Calix equipment for telecommunications.
So as you guys are aware, we're trying to get everything upgraded to the Calix on the telecom side. So this, I think, should get us, Clint's not here tonight, but I think he said with this order, this would suffice for getting everybody upgraded to the Calix. And this is a budgeted item.
Motion?
Make a motion, we approve purchase order 103726, the amount not to exceed 50,000, issued to Calix for the purchase of Calix equipment for telecommunications.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 6, discussion and possible action on manager contract.
This is that same thing, correct? So I make a motion to accept a contract pursuant to discussion in executive session.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
No.
Martins.
Yes. Any other report, Robin?
No.
Adjourn, please.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. All right, now we'll go into the Library Authority regular meeting. Call that meeting to order with a quorum. Item 3, discussion and possible action on minutes of regular meeting of October 14th, 2024.
Make a motion.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 4, discussion and possible action on manager contract.
I make a motion to accept contract pursuant to discussion in executive session.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
No.
Martins.
Yes. Any other items for you on that one? All right, motion to adjourn that meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. All right, take us into the Industrial Finance Authority meeting, regular meeting. Call that meeting to order with a quorum. Discussion and possible action on minutes of regular meeting of October 14th, 2024.
Make a motion.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 4, discussion and possible action on city manager contract.
I make a motion to accept contract pursuant to discussion in executive session.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
No.
Martins.
Yes. Motion to adjourn, please?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. And lastly, we'll go into the Economic Authority regular meeting. I'll call that meeting to order with a quorum. Discussion and possible action on minutes of regular meeting of October 14th, 2024.
Make a motion.
Second.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Item 4, discussion and possible action on city manager contract.
I make a motion to accept contract pursuant to discussion in executive session.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
No.
Martins.
Yes. Motion to adjourn, please?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Mendiola,
Yes.
Martins.
Yes. Thank you all for being here.